no matter what happened last week, it was a great week. You know why?
Tell me.
I defeated Larry Krueger in fantasy football
There you go.
again. Hi, Larry.
I also went with the Eagles tonight in the pool, and I think we might be in the same damn pool.
Are you in the one from the people that we used to know?
Yes, my man Walter.
I won that pool last year. Do you know that?
I won it the year before.
Well, now it's a showdown between two defending champs.
By the way, you should not have beaten me in fantasy. I really should have beaten you.
Yeah, boy.
Oh, here we go.
Play.
I mean.
Well, he probably shouldn't have picked up Puka Nacua, who is now unable to practice for the Rams. So a lot of shoulda, woulda, coulda. And that's just what we do, Larry, in this make-believe world of fantasy football.
I did pick up Tutu Atwell.
Yeah, you did.
Puka and Tutu is my favorite wide receiver combo in the history of the league. Official number, 124 survivors, 30 eliminated last week.
Wow.
30 out, 124 move on. And here we go, week number 2. But Larry, we're sitting here talking about Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay. And years ago, these two guys were compared, contrasted. We get it. Same age category, young offensive geniuses from football families, all of that stuff. Kyle gets the upper hand most of the time. Sean has the big one. How do you kind of compare and contrast? And if you had to pick one to coach your team, who do you got?
Well, you know what? I think they're two of the best young coaches in football. I really do. I advocated at the time that the Niners should go after McVay. I don't know. I mean, at this point, I think Kyle's probably the better play because I think Kyle's is in it long term, where I think McVay's going to get out and jump to the Monday night booth or, the TV side, I think within 2 or 3 years. So I think Kyle's more of a lifer. I think he'll have a much longer run here than McVay will have in L.A. That's my guess.
Is it still a thing when we talk about Rams week, Larry? Is it still a rivalry, or is that something that is kind of from a bygone era?
Dibs, I think it's a great question. I think it definitely is a rivalry. It's definitely a rivalry with the fans. And I think it's definitely a rivalry with the organization. And the fact that McVay is there and Kyle is here and they work together in Washington, I think that only adds to it. And then the other layer is obviously, as you just said, you guys stated, McVay's got the Super Bowl ring and Kyle's still in pursuit of it. But yet Kyle has beaten the Rams, or the Niners have beaten the Rams 8 straight times in the regular season. So, as Krueger would say, they got a little ownage.
No doubt they do, except for that really, really big one. And then we transfer all of that into this week. And it's funny. We're sitting around talking about this before the show, and Dibs was kind of like, I don't think that the rivalry thing is really hot right now because the Rams stink. And then we started talking about the fact that, well, we think they stink, yet we actually have zero evidence of that so far this year. We've seen them once. They looked fantastic. Who are the Rams this year, Larry?
Great question, Mark. Well, I think they're a team that's really well coached. So, if you're a coach that, you have different rosters, you win different ways. Right now, McVay doesn't have a dynamic roster, so he's looking to play ball control. They ran 40 times last week, and they only averaged 2.3 or something like that a carry. They didn't have a lot of success, but then they put the ball in the hands of Stafford on 3rd down, and they said, make plays. And he's got 2 really different receivers. Nacua, who's dinged up now, is a possession guy who doesn't have tons of speed, but he's got great hands. He'll catch it in a crowd, and he knows how to sit in a soft spot in a zone. He's very reliable, almost like a 5 or 7 year veteran type receiver, but he's a rookie. Atwell, on the other hand, is he's a hard guy to even stay with because he might be the fastest guy in pro football. He only weighs 166 pounds, but he's a legit 4.3 burner. And you can tell on the film, it's hard to stay within 5 yards of him.
Larry, when you look at this Niner defense going up against the two receivers, assuming that Puka Nacua can actually get back on the field. Do either of them scare you in terms of what they bring, or is this Niner pass rush so disruptive that it'll protect some relative inexperience that they have on the back end?
I'm fearful of these guys. Why? Because Stafford is, this Ram team is the real reason that people don't like the Rams this year is the Rams are because of the cap, they're totally decimated as far as depth. But that doesn't help you in week 1, week 2, week 3 at the beginning of the year when they're fresh. This Notre Dame running back they have runs hard, and he's very efficient. And to me, if the Niners' run defense was not good in the preseason, it looked good last week. But if you look closer, Pittsburgh only had 10 runs. The Rams are going to commit to the run, and Kyron Williams is really solid. I mean, he's like a hard guy to tackle. He's a hard guy to hit for negative plays because he's kind of like Elijah Mitchell. He falls forward. So I think it's a big part of, can the Niners play, mistake-free football? Can they stop Williams on first and second down? Can they get the Rams into some third and longs instead of just third and manageable? If it's third and long, I think Niners win. If it's a lot of third and short and third and manageable, then it's anybody's ball game, and Stafford right now is playing well.
Larry, it feels to me, and I admitted earlier this week, this might just be the feel. I don't have the data. It feels to me, though, like largely the 49ers in the last few years have been able to contain Aaron Donald better than we thought they would going into the game. How have they done that? How do they do it this time?
Well, the guy that had a lot of success, Mark, as you know, is Brunskill, and Brunskill's not here. I did sit down this afternoon with Spencer Burford, and we talked a lot about Donald. And one of the things that he said was and Jake Brendel said the same thing to me yesterday, which is Donald is so unique, guys, because he's so strong and so fast, but he also, as an offensive lineman, you're looking for a target. And he's so compact in how he's built, he doesn't give you a target to put your hands on him. So I think what they've done in the past is they've mixed it up, where sometimes they're running at him, sometimes they're running away from him. He doesn't know if he's in pursuit mode or if he's at the point of attack. And I think they've fooled him a lot. And that's a hard thing to keep doing over time because the film starts to circulate. But I think it's been he's such a great movement player that at times they have fooled him and used his movement ability and pursuit speed against him.
While we're talking O-line, Larry, what was your take or your opinion on Colton McKivitz and his performance? A lot of fans critical of his inability to stop J.J. Watt, or T.J. Watt, rather. How did you think he fared in the opener against Pittsburgh?
It wasn't a disaster, but it wasn't good enough. And I think Colton would admit that. I think Chris Forster, who we talked to earlier today, said, hey, look, all across the board, we weren't good enough. And he named everybody, but he started off by going with Colton and Burford. I think it's the right side of that line is going to have to be better. I mean, Kyle said it, Dibs, Monday. He said, hey, look, Colton had the toughest assignment on the whole team. And he really did. T.J. Watt is a spectacular player who may have given Bosa a run for the Defensive Player of the Year award last year had he been healthy. So he drew the toughest matchup, and he got beat a couple times. A couple of those were on him. A couple of those were Brock's got to get rid of the ball. But, that was a unique matchup. It wasn't a disaster for McKivitz, but it definitely stands out as one of the very few negatives in an overwhelmingly positive game.
Larry Krueger with us, Willard and Dibs, 95.7 The Game. We are starting to get ready for Rams and 49ers coming up this weekend. Larry, we all know that you were the first one to the Purdy party. Okay, so you saw something then, but now we're starting to actually see an NFL resume. And as you see him come out of his first full camp as the starter and look the way he did last weekend, I wonder now, where do you think this is going long term?
I think he is a very good NFL quarterback. And like I was joking with you the other day, you had a poll question up, and you had every answer except for that one, which was, is he a backup? No. Is he a marginal starter? No. Is he a legitimate starter? I think that was the high end of the poll. But the poll needed one more question. It needed one more option. And, Elon's offering you that fourth option, Mark. I'm very surprised you didn't take it.
I'd like you to stop making suggestions about my polls, Larry. I laid that out exactly as I wanted to, and so I reject your suggestion. I'm thankful for it, but I reject it.
Well, I'll just say this. I think he's a very good NFL quarterback. He doesn't fit the exact parameters physically that the scouts are looking for. But neither did Russell Wilson and neither did Fran Tarkenton, and neither did, there's a number of quarterbacks out there. You can be too tall, you can be too short, he's only, he's they want quarterbacks to be about 6'2.5" to 6'5" in that 220 to 240 range. He's 225 and he's 6'1". So, and he's maybe even a tad under that. Maybe he's 6 feet and change. But all the other things, he's really, really smart. He's much quicker than you think. He's got bigger hands and can control the football. But he's ultimately he's really a grounded player. He's grounded a lot by his faith. He's a very diligent, hard worker. I think Kyle Shanahan, when he came out and said this guy's the real deal, what he was telling you and telling all of us is that there's a lot of debate in the public circle about, is this success that he's experiencing sustainable? And I think when Kyle came out and called him the real deal, he was just trying to weigh in on that and say, yeah, you know what? In my opinion, this guy's real, and it is sustainable. And I think he's going to be a very good NFL quarterback. As far as superstar Mahomes, Allen, franchise, Super Bowls, that's lofty, and that's, who knows? Time will tell on that. But I feel very confident in saying he's going to be a very good NFL quarterback.
And that other stuff, the lofty stuff, really depends on who he has around him. And right now, an unbelievable cadre of talented skill guys, including Brandon Ayuk, NFC Offensive Player of the Week. Is it going to be a challenge for Kyle Shanahan to be able to spread the ball around enough to keep guys happy?
It's a great question, Dibs. I mean, they have three. I mean, you guys were at camp, and you guys could see it with your own eyes. The 49ers have three guys in Ayuk, Debo, and McCaffrey who all showed up this year in, their super prime. They're in the prime years of their career age-wise, experience-wise, but then they also gave themselves a chance for, the career year type season because they all showed up in absolutely incredible shape. And that just makes Kyle's job difficult. It's going to be very difficult. I think they're going to spread it around, but, if you boost based on week one, Elijah Mitchell barely touched the ball and McCaffrey got 25 touches. So I think that's going to change as the weeks, compound on one another. I think it's going to change. I think he'll mix it up. But he's got three guys there that all could be the team's number one weapon.
Hey, Larry, you've been around all this for a long time, and we were talking about it earlier in the week, and Vivid Seats is predicting that 64% of the building will be red on Sunday. And I think if that is the case, it'll feel like over 80%. When did this happen? And I don't mean the Rams. When did the 49ers become this unbelievable traveling road show that fills buildings all over the country?
That's a great question. I would say it was in the Harbaugh era. Because, you got to remember this, Mark. The 49ers obviously had the iconic, Bill Walsh, George Seifert, Steve Young, Joe Montana, 20 years of dominance. They had a Patriot-type run, and a lot of their older fans stem from that period of time. But for this to be where they're packing stadiums on the road, I mean, the Niners might be the best traveling crowd in the league right now. If they're not the best, they're right there with Dallas and Pittsburgh as the best traveling crowd. I think it has to do with the Harbaugh era. Once they won in the Harbaugh era and won a championship and went back to the Super Bowl, I think they won over an awful lot of fans over that period of time. And then, obviously, those fans were very frustrated during the Tom Sula and Chip Kelly eras. But then they went back to the Super Bowl under Shanahan. And I just think that, they've been a consistent Super Bowl contender really really since, almost the last 10 years. So you've got a 20-year run of greatness, and then you've got a more recent 10-year run of where they're in the mix for the Super Bowl. And I think that's what's done it. You got young Niner fans, you got older Niner fans, and you stack them on top of each other, and suddenly that's a force, especially on the road.
Those are great answers, Larry. Appreciate it as always, and sorry, not sorry for your 0-1 record in our league.
Man,
look at you!
Yeah,
hey,
look at me.
As Russell Crowe said in Gladiator, the days of honoring yourself will soon come to an end.
Actually, what he said was, "Are you not entertained?" And I was. I was very entertained by you losing on Sunday and Monday.
How could I lose when your quarterback laid an egg like that?
Yeah.
It's a great question, Larry. It's a great question. Yeah. But it happened. Thank you, sir.
I'll get payback. There'll be a playoff, so I'll get payback.
Hey.
The Kruegerans are not done. We're money, and we're coming back.
Yeah, real quick, just because you're here, can you explain that again? What the hell is the Kruegerans? What is that?
It's a South African coin. It's currency.
Of course.
Like a dollar bill.
Duh.
Well, I mean, wow.
So that's not a good question because we all knew that.
No, you didn't. We brought this up.
I Googled it.
That's what the slogan is. We're the Kruegerans. We're money.
I get it. Although your currency right now is not trading at a very good rate internationally at 0-1.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, if you win,
boy.
Lucas is going to pay you in Kruegerans.
Oh, come on, Lucas.
Yep, that's the deal. You asked for it. Thanks, Larry.
I prefer Krug errands, where Krug does errands for us.
Yeah.
All right. There goes
Thanks,
Larry.
Larry.
Now, we're gonna see him next Thursday, right? See him next Thursday?
Absolutely.
All right. Niners and Giants. Week from tonight.
Yep.
Prime
Video,
time.
yeah. Niners and Rams coming up here in just about a little less than 3 days now on this Thursday Eve.
Yep.